Hey you're watching a clip from the DynamiteGizmo Podcast. This is not the full episode, but if you want to see the full episode, make sure to click the link in the description. And remember, like, comment, subscribe. Do it now. Here's the clip. I want to talk about the fighting nerds right off the bat. You know I love them. I made a video essay about them. You know I love them. Everybody loves them. They're fantastic. They're rising. They're rising up. All four of them. Have you felt it? Something's been missing in the UFC lately. Have you felt it? Because I've felt it. And I think we're finally starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Now, there's been a lot of lull in the combat sports world recently. There's been a real big lull. And more specifically, I'm talking about the UFC, not just combat sports overall. And I'm not the only one who's noticed it. A lot of us who cover the sport have been talking about it for over the past year or so. Maybe even a couple years, maybe even 3 years. And yeah, it's been a little concerning. This used to be the most electric promotion in all of combat sports. And it felt like things were starting to slip. But honestly, I think we're starting to turn the corner now. And I know on paper that might sound a little crazy. We didn't get Chandler versus McGregor. We didn't get Ilya versus Islam. We didn't get John versus Aspinall. Disappointments like these sting. God, they hurt. But if you follow the sport for long enough, you know this isn't the first time we've been let down, and it certainly won't be the last. Still, what if I told you we might have some fights on the horizon that are just as exciting as those ones I just listed, or maybe even more so? There are future stars in the UFC right now. We just need to be patient. We've got Malcolm Wellmaker. The entire top at least 7 of welterweight division is full of killers. It might even be the most stacked welterweight has ever been in the entire history of the UFC. Tom Aspinall is still holding the heavyweight division together, but right now I want to focus on a group flying just slightly under the radar. That is the fighting nerds. They might not be household names just quite yet to fans outside of the immediate MMA space. But if you follow the sport even a little closely, you know who they are, and you know how good they can be. And like I said, I made a video essay about them leading up to UFC 14 at the beginning of this year. You can check that out on my channel if you haven't seen it, because I put a lot of effort into it, and I crammed it all into the very last week leading up to UFC 314, so it was a lot of work. Could have been better, but it still turned out okay. But I'm not just talking about them today to say like, hey, look, they're exciting. No. I'm talking about them today because we might be about to witness something that has never happened in the history of UFC. I'm talking 2 UFC titles in 2 separate divisions from 2 fighters on the same team. Caio Borralho and John Silva. Okay? Caio is scheduled to headline the France card on September 6th of this year. Right now, he's ranked number 6 at middleweight, and he's going up against Nassourdine Imavov, who just climbed to number 1 after taking out Israel Adesanya. Now, if Caio wins that fight, he becomes the next logical title challenger. Then, the very next week, literally a week later, John Silva is headlining the UFC Noche card in Texas against Diego Lopes. And after Diego fought Volk for the vacated title, Diego claimed number 3 in the featherweight rankings. Or maybe he already was 3, I can't remember. But all that matters is he's ranked number 3 as of right now. So if Jean Silva beats Diego, that's a direct leap into title contention territory as well. Now here's where it gets really interesting. There's speculation for months now that Yair Rodriguez was going to get the next title shot, especially when UFC Noche was planned as a Mexico pay-per-view. But that's changed. They can't do it in Mexico anymore. So now it's a fight night, and Jean versus Diego is the main event. So now maybe Movzar finally gets his shot at Volk for the title, possibly as early as October or maybe November. Meanwhile, Dricus versus Khamzat is locked in for August. That gives both the middleweight and featherweight divisions enough time to rest and reset. The timing is absolutely perfect. So imagine this. After all that goes down, okay, Caio gets his win, Jean Silva gets his win. Then Caio Borralho headlines a UFC pay-per-view card, fighting for the middleweight belt. And then Jean Silva co-mains the same card, fighting for the featherweight title. 2 teammates, 2 title fights, 1 unforgettable night. It's all lined up. The matchups are there. The timelines work, and the hype, it would be fucking electric. These guys represent the next generation of UFC stars. They're skilled, marketable, and they've got real personality. This is the kind of new energy the UFC desperately needs. We don't need to recreate the past with Ilya Topuria trying to be Conor McGregor. Let's build a new future. New hype, new moments we can look back on in awe. Just like we did or do with Conor McGregor. And who knows? Maybe Carlos Prates continues to rise in welterweight. Maybe Mauricio Ruffy starts climbing the lightweight ranks. We could be looking at a future where all 4 fighting nerds are UFC champions. Could you imagine that? If they were all UFC champions all at once. Even if they weren't all at once, even if they all made it to championship. If they all had a championship at some point. That's the kind of moment that brings fans back. That's the kind of energy that draws in new eyes. That's how you build something special in the UFC again. We need that to happen, and I feel like, just based off of what we're witnessing now, that is not only potential, but if things go the way they should, meaning that they both win their next fights, then this is absolutely a possible thing, and I think it will happen for sure. So let me know in the comments, who are you keeping an eye on? Which rising star do you think is about to break through? Because the next era, we may be cresting the hill upon it. It might be right around the corner.
Tap here to watch the full episode of the Dynamite Gizmo podcast.